What would be the top reasons for this? Well, I know for a fact Palawan is an island. Okay. Dumaguete is also an island, but it's a big enough island to have sufficient. Sige, go ahead.
To answer the question as presented earlier, maybe yung data is as of we presented, our data presented is as of September. So we'll check po yung data submitted to the office po ng niyo po.
The
And then
data, may sinabi ka ba ngayon? Sorry ah. Ay, itong Biseco, Fiselco, ito.
Yeah.
Okay. So ano dito yung nag-i-intersect? Ano ba dyan yung pareho? Tama, yung nakita ko yata is mas recent yung sa'yo, September, no? So sige, forget that na lang. But I'm just curious kasi na if we were to compare, anong nagbago? Ano nagbago? But bakit may difference?
So to answer po yung question, to answer the question,
number 5 na 5.
yes. To answer the question is as I mentioned, if we categorize po the component of the rates of the electric cooperative or general the distribution utilities, majority or major component of which is the generation. So the generation rates may vary depending of the electric cooperatives. So
the generation rate to each cooperative fluctuates.
Yes. It depends on their negotiation CSPs po.
So, pero that's part of your job, di ba?
Yes.
So, anong findings nyo? Mahina ba is it a negotiating, the ability to negotiate of one is better than the other?
Sometimes, some co-ops with a small load or small demands, they're having difficulty in securing a least cost or competitive costing. That's why NEA implemented some aggregation within the regions. So
Okay.
that
So maybe you can give us examples
Yes,
of what are these aggregation, the results of this aggregation to address that. Kasi doesn't seem like a good system, no? If and these cooperatives that have lower demand, is it because of their ability to expand, or is it because they're servicing a smaller area? Which or both?
To answer the question, some of the electric cooperatives, as mentioned po, is because of the load. So there are electric cooperatives with much lower demand within their area, wherein nahihirapan po silang mag-contract for a better costing. That's why NEA implementing aggregation within the regions or even the regions. They're implementing aggregation so that they will have a better pricing with regards to the generation.
What I'd like you to show us later on na lang off the record so we can proceed is given similarity in factors, no, that affect the demand for electricity in an area. So that would be the population, the geography. I want you to compare and to show which one has better are able to negotiate for better rates, because there should not be much difference if the factors are similar, right?
Yes.
Now I understand if you say, well, ito kasi yung main I don't know, sitio nila or the concentration is very small. Let's say 50% of the population is concentrated here, but then the rest of the 50 are spread out in mountains. Understood yon. Understood yon, no? That happens all over the world siguro. We have to have separate solutions for that. Pero yung more or less same, like for example, for lack of a better example, kasi Dumaguete and Palawan were both in the top 10. If the concentration of the population is in, let's say for Dumaguete, Puerto Princesa, and then, I don't know, 5 other towns, and then same with Dumaguete, you should be able to have, diba? I feel like that's NEA's job, no? To explain that further to us. Okay, so that's my concern. We'll discuss it further in the next hearing, or I would prefer in a small group meeting na lang, just so I can also understand and give feedback. Then you can report it out in the next hearing. Okay, did you want to add something?
Yes, Madam Chair. We will be we recognize, of course, the concern, and we have a specific office in NEA dedicated to the we call that the Regulatory Affairs Office, and we will be dissecting so that we will all be informed on why, although there are electric cooperatives similarly situated, such as yung atin pong nasa SPAG areas or off-grid,
Yeah.
on why they are exacting or have been able to contract
Yes.
higher
Ex-
generation costs as against the other
Yes.
electric cooperatives. This is a very legitimate, Madam Chair, and we will be asking our Regulatory Affairs Office to conduct a detailed study on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Our former chairman of the committee will recall that in the last Congress, when he was chairman, Senator Miggs and then I don't know, a few other senators brought to our attention the really high prices being charged in different localities. And then sadly, the reality that hindi pa reliable yung supply. So yun nga, mataas na nga yung presyo. Hindi pa maasahan yung produkto. Parang sama talaga. And that's where I really feel that as the agencies in charge, no, you should be able to give us these answers really quickly. Kasi it's not a new issue. If it's a new issue, I understand that I'll give you time, no. But all I'm saying now is, in the interest of hearing everybody, I'll get back to you. But I'm assuming you have the answers because this is not new to you. Okay, thank you. So let's proceed. Let's go now to Attorney Lali Malyari of NGCP. You have the floor, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. We did not submit position paper, but we are prepared to discuss the topic that is assigned. Madam Chair, honorable members of the Senate, good afternoon. The National Grid Corporation of the Philippines thanks the Senate for the opportunity to participate in today's discussion, particularly on the challenges faced by NGCP in completing transmission projects. Please allow me to enumerate. First is what we consider external interventions. External interventions refer to actions of LGUs, community leaders, or other stakeholders that disrupt or delay transmission project activities. These may include local political influences, inconsistent enforcement of national policies at the local level, or the imposition of additional non-statutory requirements before projects can proceed. Your Honor, should you wish, I can give particular examples, but I could proceed on discussing the bullet points that we have prepared.
Identifying the area, just tell me, like delayed permits, what?
Yes.
Just randomly list what those are.
Yes, for instance, Your Honor, in Pampanga, wherein we have a stoppage, wherein we have a substation project, we were slapped with a stoppage order by the mayor, even when we have a duly issued building permit. That stoppage order, it lasted for a month, and that, of course, especially if it affected critical path, it would delay the implementation of the project. Also, Your Honor, for some, we have barangay captains that do not issue barangay clearance. Some of the grounds that they don't issue is, this is for instance in Cebu Magdugol line. We have a barangay there that did not issue a barangay clearance because he wanted that his contractor will be the one that should undertake whatever construction that we need to do there. Also, Your Honor, for instance, in another substation in Bulacan, a barangay captain did issue a stoppage order, even when we have already duly issued building permit. The reason being they wanted.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, short reaction to this. In Pampanga, you're referring to the town of San Simon. We helped you when I was still in the House of Representatives because what he did was wrong. But in that hearing, I remember that we suggested that NGCP should file immediately an action against the mayor, but it took you so long. I don't know if you succeeded in filing one, because that is the only way to discourage and to prevent enterprising local government units into meddling into your works. Ang problema, I myself, Madam Chair, napansin ko while we were still in that hearing, parang hesitant ang NGCP. Yun ang nagiging problema. Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you react?
Yes, thank you, Senator Marcoleta. We have already filed the case with the Ombudsman. It's already submitted for resolution. And as we have commented during that hearing, NGCP is really keen on project implementation. That is why as soon, it's a month, Your Honor, the stoppage is a month. So as soon as we were allowed to resume, we resumed with a project, but it did. May I continue? Okay.
I was also going to ask, between DOE and NEA, if for example it involves rural electrification, what are there measures that you take to assist in this? Like, do you report to any of them and tell them this is what's going on? Because that's great that it nagkataon na may hearing sa House, may hearing sa Senate, and to the extent that we can all assist, but it's an implementation issue, no? So who helps in that sense? Kasi if we say that the goal is electrification to be efficient, and then these things happen, and any barangay captain can hold it up, my God. Like, so who steps in government?
We resort to local government hierarchy, Your Honor.
No, but on the national, kasi the goal of electrification is within this body, di ba? So DOE, and to a certain extent NEA. So wala kayong role dyan? I want an answer. I want to know. You are all more experienced than I am in the energy sector, so I want to know.
Madam Chair, if I may answer, based on the franchise of NGCP, they are authorized to all this expropriation. The DOE comes in, especially if there is stranded power na available na po pero hindi makakabato because of that critical transmission assets na hindi pa natutuloy. So even it is beyond our jurisdiction, we try to reach out to these LGUs and make representation na kung anong issue we have to settle and address the matter.
So, but have you been involved in, like, she has a list, no? I mean, obviously you're just giving me a few examples. Do you automatically get involved? Are you automatically informed? I would think you tell them because it affects your timeline, no? So may reportorial kayo, something like that. But it's not really an SOS na please help us. You're just reporting to them na, tama ba? Do I understand correctly?
Yes, Your Honor. We have the ad hoc. We do meet on a regular basis with the DOE in that ad hoc meeting
so,
for
but
transmission.
by the way you're explaining it to me, both of you, it would appear that, okay, let's say you have a quarterly meeting. Okay, FYI, ito yung mga nangyari. Dito, naharang kami. Dito, hiningan kami ng ganito. Dito, hindi natuloy. It's just a reportorial thing. So it's not an intervention that you do in pursuit of that goal, that electrification within the fastest period in the most efficient way, right? It's not. So that's my conclusion, and you can tell me I'm wrong, but that's how I hear it. And if so, I will also ask you for the solutions. What can you do about it? Because
Your Honor,
yeah,
meron pong discussion during that hearing, and that meron po na mga tasking na, okay, we do this. So hindi po siya like
but how often does that ad hoc committee meet?
At least on a monthly basis, weekly. At least on a monthly basis, Your Honor.
Okay,
Tapos
sige.
may mga things to do. And,
okay, so the next report that you'll give me is the specific issues that you encountered and how soon was it resolved, no? So if it's resolved in 1 week, okay. 2 weeks, pwede na siguro. Pero I don't know, do we want to wait a month? Maybe the others have more than a month. Diba?
Sige po, Your Honor.
Kasi we're precisely looking at what prevents you from doing your job, right? Okay, so that was the external. Then you were saying other.
Yes, Your Honor. Sama ko rin po sa external or security risk and community resistance occasionally arise due to misinformation about health, safety, or environmental impacts. Meron din po kasi kaming instances where there are local insurgents. And yun po. Second is request for rerouting of transmission lines. Rerouting requests are made by landowners, LGUs, or developers seeking to alter the originally determined alignment of transmission lines. These are often given by land use conflicts, planned developments, or aesthetic concerns. Rerouting significantly increases the project cost and implementation time, and in many cases, rerouting is requested after road acquisition or construction has already begun, causing severe disruptions.
There were original clearances, so they changed their mind, or they never knew. What is it?
Hindi po. After the route has been determined, Your Honor, and
Clearance is sought.
on
You
Ju-
don't get the clearance.
yes po, kasi we have to engage na with the landowner.
Yeah. So some natatagalan doon.
Yes,
Okay.
Your Honor. For instance, Your Honor, with TIEZA, Your Honor, for the MVIP, meron na kasi silang land use naisip na ng paggagamitan ng land. So, yung mga ganong po. Third is row acquisition issues. Row acquisition remains one of the most persistent bottlenecks in power transmission projects. Challenges include disputes over land valuation, resistance from property owners, or lack of ownership documents. Insofar as filing of expropriation cases, the issuance of WOP, or the writ of possession by courts, is quite a challenge. The issuance of WOP was supposed to be ministerial as long as the provisional deposit is paid. But with the 2023 Supreme Court decision in the Iloilo grain case, where the Supreme Court requires the ERC approval of projects prior to filing of expropriation cases, several WOPs that were already issued were recalled by courts. And another challenge is when courts issue TRO against NGCP when WOP is already issued. So this stretches the project's implementation timeline. Fourth is the protracted permitting process. NGCP transmission projects require numerous permits from both national and local agencies. Projects can require over 20 permits and clearances from multiple agencies such as DENR, DA, NPC, LLDA, DAR, NIA, CAAP, DPWH, NCIP, and other LGUs, and each with its own processing timeline and requirements. Permitting delays can extend the project completion by several years, leading to congestion in the transmission network and deferred integration of new generation capacity. Finally, Your Honor, regulatory approvals. Transmission projects are subject to regulatory oversight by the ERC to approve CapEx, rate adjustments, and project implementation schedules. NGCP is hopeful that with the recent implementation of EBOS for the CapEx application, the Supreme Court 2023 ruling in NGCP versus Iloilo Grain Complex Corporation, where NGCP was prohibited to file expropriation case for transmission projects not yet approved by the ERC, will be adequately addressed. In conclusion, addressing these challenges require a whole-of-government approach to align timelines and locations for generation development and transmission expansion. A whole-of-government approach is essential in harmonizing national and local mandates and ensuring that regulatory and administrative frameworks support, not hinder, the achievement of EPIRA's objectives. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So let's go now to Transco, Ms. Donna Calazo Aleria.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the Senate, ladies and gentlemen. The committee asked us to present our assessment on NGCP's compliance with its franchise and concession. So next slide, please. This slide presents the framework that defines the relationship of Transco, PISAM, and NGCP. Next slide, please. So based on Section 7.03 and 10.01 of the concession agreement, Transco is tasked to monitor and assess the performance of NGCP. And this oversight function is carried out through a joint mechanism between Transco and PSAM, known as the Technical, Regulatory, Financial, and Legal Assessment Team, which was established in 2010. The TR Flat report is transmitted to NGCP for its compliance and corrective actions, and copies are also furnished to the Department of Energy, Energy Regulatory Commission, Department of Finance, and the Joint Congressional Energy Commission. Next slide, please. So for the 2024 TR Flat, 68 out of 82 provisions of the concession agreement were found either non-compliant or unassessed, mainly due to Transco and PSAM's lack of access to NGCP's books and records beyond financial and asset-related matters. The enumeration on the right are the key unresolved findings from the previous years. Note that findings 1, 2, and 4 are already addressed in the arbitration with NGCP. Next slide, please. Moving on the project implementation, as of August 2025, out of 249 projects, about 56.63% or 141 projects did not meet their target completion dates. Of these 100 projects were completed beyond their approved timelines, while 41 projects remain ongoing but are already delayed past their approved completion periods. Next slide, please. For that reason, our recommendations are the following. Transco recommends that it should be enforced the implementation of the Department of Energy's order on the constituted performance assessment and audit team, so that this interagency body, which was created to objectively assess NGCP's compliance with its obligations as transmission network provider and system operator under the concession agreement and EPIRA. However, NGCP has not allowed the conduct of the audit, limiting government oversight and validation of its reported performance. Transco recommends that the DOE and the Senate and Committee on Energy reinforce this department order and direct NGCP's full cooperation with the PAAT and PSO. And given the persistent compliance issues and the strategic importance of transmission operations to national security, Transco reiterates that system operations should return to government management and oversight. That's the last slide, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay, give me a second. I'm digesting your presentation. If my colleagues want to ask anything, go ahead, because I need 2 minutes to run through your tables.
Madam Chair, I think we have to hear an initial reaction from NGCP.
Yeah, that's a good. I was trying to get more specific.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, just recently, 21 October 2025, NGCP sent a letter to Transco President as well as PSAM President, subject being the joint PSAM and Transco assessment on NGCP's compliance with the concession agreement covering calendar year 2024. Let me just read the three main topics of that response. First, NGCP has been compliant with the provisions of the concession agreement has fulfilled its obligations as the concessionaire of the transmission assets and facilities. NGCP maintains its position that the scope and coverage of the inspection of books and records under Section 10.01 of the concession agreement merely extends only to financial books and records relating to the history and conditions of the transmission assets. PISOM and Transco's right to access to NGCP's books and records is solely for the purpose of checking NGCP's compliance with its obligation under the concession agreement. Second, NGCP reiterates its responses to Transco's recurring findings of alleged violation of certain provisions of the concession agreement, which have already been addressed and responded to by NGCP. And these items, Your Honor, are enumerated, listed in the letter. We can provide you, Your Honor.
Okay,
We can
thank you.
provide you. And third, as to the results of the assessment on compliances of the provisions of the concession agreement in their Annex A, the letter responding to, we have our detailed responses, Your Honor. And that also NGCP provided a response in line with the arbitration ruling regarding Transco's land-related capex and operating expenses for right-of-way, also enumerated, Your Honor. So essentially, Your Honor, what we're stating is that we have extensively responded to the allegations insofar as compliances of NGCP to the concession agreement, Your Honor. So we will provide the committee, Your Honor, with this letter. Thank you, Your Honor.
Particularly, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, the alleged refusal to allow Transco and PISAM to inspect new transmission projects. How is that?
Your Honor, our position is that if it is still in the construction or implementation stage, it is not yet a transmission asset because, Your Honor, the same has not been transferred to NGCP. It's the site, Your Honor, is under the construction site is under the control of the contractor, the ones that have been contracted. So insofar as there's safety concerns, since it's a construction site, Your Honor, we cannot we cannot assure, and that basically that's it, Your Honor. It's not yet a construction asset. It's not yet a transmission asset.
So, Madam Chair, it seems that that is a reasonable justification.
Especially in light of the fact, Your Honor, that even if these projects are not completed, we are already, the rates are already being collected for this ongoing transmission.
That doesn't give you the right to inspect on the basis of her answer, because ang may control nga yung mga contractors pa eh. She's talking about security and safety measures. So bakit hindi nyo hintayin na matapos nga naman ang project?
Your Honor, because for us, it's our interpretation that even inspecting these ongoing transmission projects is already performance of NGCP of its obligations.
That's been explicitly indicated in the
concession agreement.
Concession
sir.
agreement?
It says, sir, that
because you're supposed to be interpreting it.
yes,
So parang
and
could be their understanding
yes,
against your
Mr. Chair.
reading of the context of the concession agreement. So
Yes, sir.
tingnan yung mabuti para siguro hindi tayo nagtatagal dyan.
Yes, Mr. Chair. And we understand also, Mr. Chair, that if there are problems with Madam Chair, with the provisions of the concession agreement, that the parties would negotiate on how to better go forward with these conflicting provisions without going to dispute resolution, Mr. Chair. Madam Chair.
So, on the same topic, the reason we're even having this discussion is because of the high rate of non-complied projects, right? That's why we're having this discussion, because in your presentation on the TRF LAT assessment on the compliance of NGCP, there are more projects that are not complied with than those complied with. And then there's even more that have no basis to assess the compliance. That is the reason you want to inspect, correct? Partly the reason you want to inspect?
Because
Or that's something
Madam
else?
Chair, the way it's written, the concession agreement states that Transco and PSAM should be able to monitor the performance of NGCP with its obligations under the concession agreement. And so
okay.
we believe that instead of just the technical and financial matters, we should be able to inspect all the other aspects, such
Okay.
as the
I understand what
legal-
you're saying. Okay. So I will repeat what you said based on my understanding. You're saying that your understanding is Transco should be able to monitor performance.
Yes, Madam Chair.
And you agree with that in principle, that they should be able to monitor performance. NGCP agrees with that in principle, Attorney Malyari?
Your Honor, so far as it is under the concession agreement section 10.01.
Okay, so whatever that means, I don't have a copy of section 10.01. So I do not know what you are referring to. But having said that, I'm simply focusing on complied projects, 14. Non-complied, not complied, 28. No basis to assess, 40. So to me, they have a basis to monitor performance. So unless you disagree that you have 28 non-complied projects and there's 40 of them that they have no basis to assess, then I believe it is their job to find ways to find out why this is going on. So either you verbally explain it to them, they accept the explanation, or your verbal explanation is not sufficient, so they have to find ways. As to up to what can they do, that depends on the agreement. And if you can't agree, you go to dispute resolution. In the meantime, we're stuck with this. The Filipino people have to deal with this. So we can't go on just trying to be the mediator here.
Madam Chair, I think it's the monitoring which needs to be explained. Can you monitor without being present in the project and inspecting it personally? Because you can ask them some data, some inputs for you to be able to monitor what they do. Not necessarily you being in the area, in the site, inspecting for yourself. So monitoring is a term that would not require precisely inspection. It can be done in other ways. Kasi dito kayo nagkakaroon ng diferensya. Can you imagine, Transco, Madam Chair, is the owner of the transmission. Nag-aaway sila, which is very, very far from what the people expect. So, baka yung difference nila is a matter of terminology, Madam Chair. This is something that they can trace out by, meeting, siguro. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The next hearing, I need you, well, actually before the next hearing, I want you to give me a list of these non-complied projects, the explanations that were given as to why they're not complied, and your concern as to why you need a better understanding. Because if you understand it as it is, then what's your next step? You terminate? What do we do? What do we do? It's a monopoly. What do we do? Diba? So let's move on, no? Because I can't solve this for you today. So, you still have the floor. What's your other?
Madam Chair, if also we may be afforded a copy of the list, because we do not know what are those 40 items or what are the numbered items that they have mentioned. In the same manner that it will be provided to the committee, may we be furnished with a copy so that we may be able to
say, as far as you're concerned, you don't necessarily yet agree with these figures?
Your Honor, to be honest, this is the first time I'm hearing those figures.
Oh, really?
Because-
you didn't say anything sooner. I mean, I was waiting for you. I just assumed that tanggap nyo to. Kasi, anyway, Because I was going to go to the next slide already, which basically says in Luzon, in fact, I don't even understand this table. Under the heading completed, you have within schedule and you have delayed. So paano naging completed yung delayed? What does that mean?
Madam Chair, it means that there are 126 projects, 7 are within schedule, 44 are delayed. Yes.
If after that, in the same line, you have within schedule 11 and then 18 delayed. What does that mean? And one is under the heading of completed, the other is on the heading of ongoing.
Madam Chair, it means that the projects have been completed, but they actually didn't meet the correct
tapos na, but
timeline.
they did not meet the deadline. Pero tapos na.
Yeah. For example, the original timeline would have been June 2024,
Okay.
but then
I understand now.
Yeah.
I understand. So when I look at this, the completed and the ongoing projects, the bulk are delayed. It's not even the majority. The bulk are delayed. Ganun na lang talaga ang buhay.
Your Honor, please,
Nakakaawa tayo, di ba?
if we may be, Your Honor, please, if we may be given the list, because I understand, for instance, for the TR flat assessment, Your Honor, sometimes their findings is busted lamp, doorknob.
No, but this okay. I understand.
So that is why
Yeah.
we need to understand, Your Honor.
So you don't know this? You're not aligned with this?
Madam Chair,
yes, Your Honor.
It
If we
is
may be given the
this
list.
table is actually based on NGCP's transmission project summary report as of August 31, 2025. And the estimated time of completion for each project was approved also by the Energy ERC. So they are aware of this. This is actually the report. We're just monitoring.
Oh, it's your report daw.
Sige po.
We just summarize it to a table, Madam Chair.
Sige po. We'll look at the
No, but if
itemized.
it's your report, the only thing I'm gonna do right now is to call another speaker. Then I'm gonna call you again because it's your report. So I'm just gonna give you a few minutes to look at that report and to explain to me, so we can also understand what the issue is.
Your Honor, if I may consult with my
Of course. So I'll call on somebody else while you do that. Okay? Yeah, please, Senator
But,
Gatchalian.
Madam Chair, I admittedly hindi ko nalagay ito dun sa proposal ko sa ERC governance reform. But one of the things that we need to update, Madam Chair, is the penalties that ERC can impose on transmission operators, distribution companies, even GenCos. Itong delay ng project ng NGCP, hindi ho ito bago. In fact, in 2024, the ERC penalized NGCP for 34 projects which are delayed. Pero yung penalty na inimpose nila is only 15 million pesos for those delayed projects. Just to give you context, in 2024, ang net profit ng NGCP is about 17 billion pesos. And ang dividends declared nila to their shareholders is about 3.6 billion pesos. So obviously, 15 million pesos of penalties really not commensurate to the size of the transmission operator. Kaya isa sa mga, and admittedly hindi ko nalagay ito sa bill, but I will propose to the committee during the technical working group, is to update and give ERC the power to impose penalties commensurate to the size of the project and also the operator. Yung mga ganitong NGCP na billion po yung kanilang kinikita, dapat yung kanilang penalties hindi ho 15 million, dapat ho hundreds of millions at least para maramdaman ho nila. But then again, this is not an isolated case. Nangyari na ho to in 2024 na meron 34 projects na delayed. Kaya nagulat ho ako ngayon na dito sa report ng Transco na almost 82, not 82 but ito pala, 56% of the projects are delayed. 141 projects out of the 249 projects. At pag nadidelay ho yung projects, ang problema ho yan, number one, yung banta ng brownout, yellow alerts and red alerts. And then number two, obviously mas mahal po yung kuryente dahil wala tayong ibang mapuntahan kung hindi yung pong transmission na kaisa-isa. No? Kung meron pong mga alternatives, yung mga generation companies, meron silang alternatives para ipadala po yung kanilang kuryente. So, Madam Chair, at the proper time, during the technical working group, we'll propose some amendments so that we can empower ERC as the regulator para mag-impose po ng penalties. Hindi lang naman po sa NGCP, pati na rin po sa mga utilities, pati na rin po sa mga GenCos. So, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We appreciate the former chairperson's recommendations, observation, as we know he has studied this matter very carefully, and we look forward to the amendments His Honor will be proposing. Thank you. So, did you want to add anything else before I go? Or you're gonna go ahead and talk to your team?
Still
Yes.
discussing with the team.
Okay, go ahead. So now, Miss Donna, you're done, no? You're done, so I'll proceed. So next is Attorney Rohel Teves of NPC, and then please be prepared, PISAM, then PEMC, and so on.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, and thank you for this privilege to discuss with you the topic that was assigned to the National Power Corporation, and of course to Senator Marcoleta and Senator Gatchalian. So, Your Honors, right now, NPC is supplying electricity to over 150 or 168 areas on off-grid missionary electrification. No? Then mostly these small islands in remote mainland barangays where the private investors have not yet entered into. So we have 5 challenges. Actually, the first is there are some petitions, the recovery petitions, again, pending in the ERC. That is why the National Power Corporation is generating power at a higher cost than the approved rates of the ERC. And to bridge this gap, we are kaya po kami nag-loan sa Land Bank of the Philippines. Then second is the ballooning outstanding unpaid power bills, especially in Basulta, the Basilan, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi area. And as of August 31, 2025, it is now estimated at around 11 billion. So, of course, the collection is hampered by so many challenges, or issues and concern, no? By financial distress of cooperatives and some, hindi po talaga nagbabayad yung kanilang mga customers. So, yun po naman yung mga kanilang sentimiento, no? And then the third is the project implementation delays due to land and permitting issues. Ito po, matagal na pong issue, no? In fact, the challenges in land titling, land classification, and acquisition are recurring across the off-grid areas. In fact, may mga nakakaranas po kami na yung isang isla, pag pinuntahan mo namin, puno ho ng mga tao, but lo and behold, pag tinignan na po namin sa DNR, yun po ay reserve areas. Just like in Itbayat, no? In Batanes Island, in Batanes area. That's one. And then dun naman po sa MGSP, isa pong naranasan namin, yung isang maliit na isla in Camarines Norte. Marami pong tao, isang island barangay. But then when we check the titles, no, it is a titled island to a private person. So, yun po yung naghihinder ng aming mga proyekto, no? Then fourth is the difficulty in engaging the private sector for renewable energy hybridization and replacement of aging SPAG plants, no? Yes, while NPC is actively pursuing the hybridization of diesel plants with solar, wind, or any renewable energy technology, private sector participation has been limited. Of course, the reason is, pinaka-main reason po ng investor is the uncertainty ng kanilang balik ng kanilang pera, because we know that in the islands po, Madam Chair, yung kakayahan ng pagbabayad ng mga customer ay medyo talagang very challenging, no? because of the poverty. No? Then the fifth is the delayed entry of the new NPPs that we have. No? Although nag-CCSP po yung mga electric cooperatives in the islands, kaya lang po because of some permitting issues again and some legal issues, medyo nadidelay po yung kanilang commercial operation date. And that is one reason also draining our coffer. No? Kasi po, pinaplano ho namin, but then again, ang nagiging problema pag na-delay po, so we have to adjust our budget and so on and so forth. And alam na alam po to ni Senator Win na we are our fuel is diesel. So talaga pong madidrain po ng husto yung aming budget. So yun po, Your Honors, yun lang po yung update namin, yung challenges and issues sa off-grids right now, Madam Chair. Thank you po.
It's kind of depressing. Wala ka man lang light at the end of the tunnel?
No, ma'am. Ganito po, Madam Chair. Actually, recently when we presented our budget to Senator Gatchalian, no, which is the chairman of the finance, the new president has this kind of program, no, to accelerate the hybridization in the island. So we will implement that in 2026 onwards, and we submitted that already, the program. But the details, Madam Chair, we will discuss it in our strategic planning this coming November 17, 18, 19. So internally, we have a plan to hybridize to 2,100 kilowatt peak, and then the other projects will be, of course, in cooperation with the private sectors. Yun po yung para ma-hit namin yung programa. Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, I remember during the last hearing, I think the case of Ormeco in Mindoro, is that Ormeco or there's another one? Ormeco. NPC has an obligation of about 144 million to be paid to dun sa power producer. And I remember at that time, the President, Jericho Nograles, made a commitment that's already under process. And we were talking about how many days will it be processed. Parang biniro ko pa siya 1 week, 3 days. And he smiled, suggesting that he might just be paying on time. I checked with the power producer. Wala pa eh. And the indication is you will be paying in installment. Alam mo, nagdudugo na rin sila eh. You know, the reason why nangyayari ito is that NPC is failure to pay. Kasi, alam nyo, hindi naman mahaba ang PC ng mga power producers eh. If you do not pay on time, like this is already 144 million, I can imagine, titipirin nila talaga yung kanilang production. So, minsan, magba-brown out siguro. So paano yun? Commitment after commitment. So why can't you pay? Meron namang yung universal charge na people keep on paying that para matulungan natin ang off-grid areas. Like kanina nga, sabi ng ating chairperson, she noted 10 electric cooperatives na isipin mo 14 pesos to 17 pesos per kilowatt hour. This is too high. Ang problema, hindi natin nagagampanan ang mga ibang duties natin. Kamukha nito, ang palagay ko, Madam Chair, ang ginagamit na panggatong doon is oil, diesel. So, mahal talaga to. So, the power producer keeps on paying. Wala naman siyang nakukuhang bayad mula sa NPC. So, paano mangyayari rito? And the situation worsens every day. The question of the chair is, ba't ganito na lang ba tayo?
Okay, may I reply to that, Madam Chair? Okay, this is the situation on Power One, Madam Chair. I would like to update Senator Marcoleta that out of something like 14 vouchers, no, 11 were already approved because myself is the one who is approving it, and it was already fully audited, and now it is now. I think the check now is being prepared. Or
Madam Chair, I'm not talking about the vouchers. I'm not talking about the approval of the vouchers. We're talking here that ERC already approved the payment to that power producer. ERC is here and probably she can confirm.
Yes po.
Sinulatan na kayo, bayaran nyo na.
Yes po.
Matagal na ito eh.
Yeah.
So if you talk about vouchers and approving the vouchers, that is not the one. That's not the information we want to hear.
Okay, sir. Okay po, Madam Chair. Actually, it is within the 45 days processing period, Madam Chair. So, ano pa naman po siya?
Bakit 45 days? Sino nag-institutionalize ng 45 days? Ang sinasabi natin, kawawa sila. These are off-grid areas.
Okay.
Yung madali ang po ninyong solusyon para sa kanila, makakabuti. Sabi ng ERC, 2 sulat nang na-receive nyo, bayaran nyo na sila. You insist on 45 days. Where did you get that?
Actually, that is the standard, Madam Chair.
Where did you get the standard? It's only a standard. You can pay as early as you
Yes.
can.
We will do that, Madam Chair.
Sinabi na nga ng presidente ninyo eh.
Yes po.
And he indicated that he will pay on time. Kasi nga nagdudugo na yung mga tao eh. Saan nila kukunin ang panggastos nila kung di nyo sila babayaran? Unless, pag-usapan nyo ng NGCP kung paano maglalagay ng transmission line, which is, again, the hardest part. So hanggang may magagawa tayo, Attorney Tebes,
Yes po.
wag mo na sabihin yung mga voucher, magbayad ka na agad.
Sige po. We recognize that, Madam Chair. Actually, kausap po namin sila kahapon. Okay na po.
Ano nga pinag-usapan nyo kahapon?
Yung ano po mismo, yung paglabas po ng vouchers ay ng check po,
Yeah.
babayaran
Madam Chair,
po sila.
voucher na naman.
Hindi po, babayaran po sila, Madam Chair.
I have a question. Naka-time deposit ba yung pera nyo? Pinautang nyo ba sa ibang tao? Why would you even need 45 days? And how come upon the, I don't know if I'll use the word prodding or the pressure, or not even pressure, just by Senator Marcoleta simply asking you biglang, sige, babayaran na. Kaya palang bayaran.
Ganito po, Madam Chair, no? There is a verification process again, no? So,
Verification process.
yes, doon po sa ano po kasi, ang proseso po kasi, doon muna sa field yun, no? Halimbawa po, kung nasa
Doon muna sa
field, i-verify
Sa
muna,
field.
yun po. Meron pong proseso po yun, no? Na yung metering po nila, i-check po yun ng mga operators po natin doon, yung mga field personnel. So, there is a time for it, mga 5 days para mag-confirm po sila, no? Para ano po nila. Then, dadalhin po sa head office 7 days, something like that. So, meron naman pong ano po yan. But we see to it na yung pinag-agrihan na period to pay or to period to process, ay naaabot naman po yan. In fact, kahapon, no, tuwan-tuwa nga po yung taga-power, no, because we have this forum, no? And they learned that it is already processed and approved. So, it's only a matter of time, no? Baka nga ngayon, na-release na yung check, eh.
saying is, never kayo na-delay. Never kayo lumagpas ng 45 days na yun.
Nagkaroon lang po kami ng ganyan, Madam Chair, noong 2022. Noong nagkaroon po ng crisis yung, if you will remember, nung nag-shoot up po yung diesel. That's the time na nakiusap po kami sa kanila.
So you're saying now, all your
No, yeah,
payments
yes,
are
we
within
are
45
current.
days.
Current po.
So it's an exaggeration to say na nahihirapan yung mga power companies. Ganun ba? They are exaggerating kasi dapat tanggapin nila yung 45. Ganun ba yun? I'm genuinely curious if
Actually
that's what you're saying.
Actually po, the issue with Power One po kasi, Madam Chair, hinintay pa ho natin kasi yung ERC decision. Kasi nagkaroon ho nga walang medyo hindi pagkakaunawaan dyan. whether to pay or not. So we have to clarify with the ERC.
Oh, so anyway, sinabi ng to pay.
Yeah.
Oh, pero lahat nung
presently,
sinabi mo sa akin na verification, nagawa nyo naman siguro before pa yon, di ba?
Yes, madam.
O, hindi na kailangan mag-antay ng another 45 kasi nagawa nyo na.
Kaya,
Pero
expedite.
dinahilan mo pa rin.
Hindi naman po, madam.
Di ba?
Chair.
Hindi,
Kasi
dinahilan mo eh. And
yung
you know what?
papel-
I'm also trying to learn. So help me learn by
Yes,
giving me
ma'am.
clear facts. You can tell
Okay.
me na we have up to 45 days, but we try to implement this within the 7, the 5 days to verify, the 7 we try to implement it within the 12 days. Yun lang naman yung gusto namin marinig. But parang pinaninindigan mo yung may 45 days kayo, kaya ini-insist ni Senator Marcoleta na sinabihan na kayo na magbayad. O tapos sabi mo ngayon pwede, kasi kaya pwede, dahil malamang yung sinasabi mong time that you need to do those things, nagawa na kasi yun.
Actually, ma'am, nag-submit lang po kasi sila recently din. Kaya ganun po.
Nag-submit sino?
Yung ng claim, no? Yung Power One.
Sige.
So ganun po
Anyway,
yan.
I put on record na when you come here and tell us your problems, also give them the solutions, ha? Kasi
Sige po,
we're
madam.
legislators. The amount of time that I put in doesn't compare to the amount of time, 8 hours a day at the minimum, you're working on this. So I don't claim to be better than you, but I claim to have a good ear and I can digest information. So give me information in a way that I can understand and give me the solutions that you see. And feel free to contradict each other because that's the only way I'll understand the problems better.
Yeah, noted, Madam Chair.
Okay. So let us know pag nabayaran na.
We will, Madam Chair.
Kailan?
Kahit bukas kung I will check with our finance. Kasi finance na po yun.
Oh, sige, bukas is Friday. Di siguro naman Monday. Kaya lang may bagyo. So pagbalik mo sabi mo, man bagyo eh. Tapos 5 days yung bagyo. Tapos 5 days kami nag-clean up. Tapos hindi nakapasok yung accounting. Diyos ko. Sige, update nyo kami next week, please.
Yeah, we will
Okay.
do that with
Thank you. So let's hear now Isam, Mr. Manuel Villalon. Go ahead, sir. And then after that, PEMSI.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, and to the others, members of the committee. So, next slide, please. Yeah, so in the slide shows you the 2 mandates of ISAM. That is the asset management, and the other one is the liability management. And we were also given the responsibility to administer the universal charge by the IPIRA. So on the asset management side, we have successfully privatized the CBK power plant a few months ago, and we are hoping to get the payment this December to the tune of 36 billion pesos. And our next project would be the rehabilitation of the Agus Pulangi power plants in Mindanao. I think one of the concerns of the legislators from Mindanao is that they are afraid that PISAM might privatize the Agus Pulangi, meaning to sell it to the private sector. But we'd like to clarify that PISAM is not going to sell the assets. We're going to own it. The government will continue to own it, and we'll just have a concessionaire to manage and operate the power plants. So first of all, as part of the asset management of those power plants, we'll rehabilitate those power plants. So starting hopefully by 2027, and by 2031, they're fully rehabilitated. So with that, there will be more power to be given to the Mindanao grid, and perhaps also to Visayas. No? So that's maybe that's one of the challenges that we have to face when we do the asset management of the Agus Pulangi, to make sure that we're not going to sell it, no? To make sure to tell everyone that we are going to continue owning it, the Philippine government. And of course, we will continue to consult Congress and also the other stakeholders in Mindanao as we move forward with the rehabilitation and concession. On the financial management or liability management mandate, as of the middle of the year, we are now at the financial obligation PISAM is now down to around 260 billion pesos. The highest amount was at 1.24 trillion pesos in 2003. So that's almost 1 trillion na deduction in the financial obligation, thanks to the asset privatization, power collections, and also the UC collections, and of course the liability management programs. And then we foresee that by the end of the extended corporate life of PISAM, by the year 2036, these financial obligations will be zero. So what are the drivers to make this FO or the financial obligation zero by 2036? So there I have mentioned one already, the CBK privatization, the asset management or concession of the Agus Pulangi hydropower plants, so that when they're fully rehabilitated, we'll have more revenues to pay those debts. No? And also we are asking also from the DBM and the Department of Finance to increase the MK allocation from 8 billion to 16 billion pesos starting 2027 until 2036. So we already made the presentations to our board. Well, the DUF and the DBM are members of the PISAM board, and we already told them if they can increase that MK allocation from 8 billion to 16 billion per year. And also the main drivers of making the financial obligation zero is also the privatization of real estate assets, and also the liability management programs that we are going to move forward. As of today, Madam Chair, the currency mix of the financial obligation is now 90% pesos and 10% US dollars. It used to be 70% US dollars and 30% pesos. So every time there's a fluctuation in the exchange rate, so we have to pay more for those dollar-denominated obligations. But now, as to overcome the challenge, we made sure that we are now more in peso and less in US dollars to manage the risk in the foreign currency fluctuations. This 10% foreign currency obligations is now equivalent to around 500 million US dollars. And of that 500 million dollars, 300 million of that is already covered by a principal on use swap, so POS, which means any movement in the dollar exchange would already be covered. So on the Universal Charge Administration, we foresee that the UCSD collection will end by the year 2027. So which means that there will be lower power rates for everyone. And then the UC-SCC or the UC stranded contract cost has already been stopped since the year 2021. And for the UCME, we will continue to collect it and give it to NPC every month, so that they could, we could help them also help them pay their obligations to the suppliers. That's all, Madam Chair.
Can you repeat what you said, that in 2027 you will pay off the debt? Tama ba?
Madam Chair, in 2036.
2036.
Yes, that's the.
Kala ko 2027. Ba't ganun yung rinig ko?
2027,
Naghanap kasi
Madam.
ako ng good news eh. That's right. Yung ano nyo. Okay. But anyway, repeat what you said.
For the 2027, Madam Chair, I was referring to the rehabilitation of the Agus Pulangi power plants. We will start the rehabilitation program of the Agus Pulangi power plants.
2027.
Yes, that's the start, and it will end in
Because
2031.
what did I hear when you said so you can expect lower rates? What was that connected to?
In 2027, the UCSD, I will stop collecting them from the consumers.
You will stop collecting.
Yes, meaning we have fully recovered our costs, so we'll no longer collect that from the consumers in 2027.
Oh, tama nga yung rinig ko. In 2027, may good news nga.
So with that, lower power rates.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So let's move on. Attorney Nidea from PEMC, and then after that, Be Ready, Engineer Descanso, and Attorney Gubalia. Okay, go ahead please, Attorney Nidea.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon also, Senator Gatchalian. First, we wish to reiterate our support for the key reforms and policies outlined in Senate Bills 346, 367, and 1164, which aim to strengthen the Energy Regulatory Commission and improve regulatory governance in the electricity power industry. For PEMC, which is the governance arm of the wholesale electricity spot market, we wish to raise only two issues, points to this committee for your consideration, Madam Chair. Number one, which we have always been consistent about, is the express recognition of the two-entity market structure of PEMC and IMAP. As it is right now, it would really help if there is a formal legislation amending Section 30 of the EPIRA to categorically establish both entities, one as the governance arm and one as the market operator. And number two, as seen in the proposed amendment of the EPIRA, we would like to request the committee if it could preserve the current stakeholder representation in the PEMC board. As proven, Madam Chair, the PEMC board right now is functioning very well with a very balanced decision making because it is represented by all stakeholders in the industry. And because of the presence of this representation in the board, the PEMC has been able to successfully collaborate with the Department of Energy, the Energy Regulatory Commission, and also with PCC in the effort to better improve the industry, the energy industry. And also PEMC has been successful in instilling with our WESM compliance officers the culture of compliance of our market rules. And so with all these achievements that PEMC had over the past years, we would like to propose that the committee consider maintaining the board, the present composition of the board of PEMC, Madam Chair. That would be all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Engineer Descanso? Again, sorry, how do you say this acronym? IMOP? IMOP. Okay.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of this committee. We haven't submitted our position paper on the subject bills, but we reserved our right to submit one if upon review we deem it necessary. But we are ready to present our assigned topic for this hearing, Madam Chair. The assigned topic is to discuss the challenges in managing operation of WESM and expanding the retail competition. Next slide, please. As a background, IMOP operates or manages the operation of the wholesale electricity spot market. Right now, we are operating the energy as well as the reserve market for the entire system, no? Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. We also is the assigned central registration body for the retail competition and open access, the Green Energy Option Program, and the recently launched Retail Aggregation Program. And in this year, we are the operator of the renewable energy markets, which accounts for the certificates generated by way of this VRE, so RE resources, and then facilitate trading of these RECs. Next slide, please. As of October 26, these are the registered capacities in the Philippines. No, for Luzon, we have about 22,000 megawatts. For Visayas, 3,700, and another 4,000, almost 4,400 in Mindanao. So those are the capacities registered in the market. And as you can see in this table, majority are still coal power plants and natural gas, which accounts 65%, no, including the oil base. But on the renewable capacities, we have about 30% already, no. Next slide, please. In terms of participation in the market, no, we have about 500 WESM participants, and then another about 2,650 participants in the retail competition, and then we have another 834 participants on the Green Energy Auction Program. The next slide, please. We have listed the 3 challenges as the market operator managing the WESM and addressing the expanding retail competition. The first is we are facing continuous enhancement of market systems to cope with, number 1, aging hardware, performance deterioration, and number 2, we expect an increasing volume of transactions in the WESM, which this will double or even triple in time of the launching of the lowering of threshold in the retail competition, no? And then lastly, we have to integrate functionalities in the system to address the new policies and market developments. Example of this are the prioritization of JF winning generators, pump storage, hydro, and etc. Number two challenge is the to upgrade the existing infrastructure to implement the lowering of retail contestability threshold to 100 kilowatt. But for items 1 and 2 challenges, IMOP is currently developing new market systems for which additional funding has been granted by the ERC. And the last challenge is to ensure adequate and capable manpower for the efficient implementation of market developments by adapting right sizing and upskilling efforts of our new employees. That's all, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Engineer Descanso. And finally, let's call on Attorney Aliana Gubalia of PCC.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and the distinguished members of the committee. We thank you for the opportunity to participate in today's hearing. So today, PCC was tasked to speak on clarifying and harmonizing the roles of ERC and PCC. So the PCC supports the intent of the bills under consideration. So collectively, it is the Energy Regulatory Commission Strengthening Act. Particularly its emphasis on reinforce institutional capacity, coordination, and information sharing among agencies. In this regard, we underscore the importance, though, of maintaining clear and well-established roles between the ERC and the PCC in advancing competition and protecting consumers. So we see that EPIRA clearly envisioned a competitive electricity market. The Philippine Competition Act, or the PCA, later strengthened that framework by establishing the PCC as the country's primary competition authority. The PCC therefore welcomes the provisions in the bills that recognize PCC's mandate and establish coordination mechanism between ERC and PCC on competition issues in the power sector. However, at the same time, we respectfully highlight the need for clear and complementary delineations of functions, with the ERC as exercising its technical and economic regulatory function, and PCC exercising its original and primary jurisdiction over anti-competitive conduct, mergers, and market abuse across all sectors. And this includes the power industry. This mandate is expressly provided under the Philippine Competition Act. Specifically, Section 14 prohibits anti-competitive agreements. Section 15 addresses abuse of dominant position. And Section 16 authorizes the PCC to review mergers and acquisitions to prevent undue concentration of economic powers. So in this context, PCC's enforcement role complements the ERC's sector regulatory mandate. Clear delineation between our roles would avoid overlaps, prevent conflicting rulings, and enables efficient and effective enforcement. In short, sector regulation and competition enforcement should complement and not duplicate each other. So toward this end, the PCC supports a system where the ERC continues to conduct its sector monitoring functions, and in the case that it identifies anti-competitive conduct, it endorses such cases to the PCC for investigation and appropriate action. And then in turn, PCC exercises its statutory authority to prosecute and enforce the PCA. Madam Chair, we would like to manifest that we submitted to the committee a position paper suggesting language for Section 43 and 45. And we also want to manifest that we also already spoke with ERC, and we are aligned with the with this kind of mechanism framework.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Just on ERC, and ito talagang it's a good opportunity to strengthen ERC. Our environment is deregulated, so in other words, the entire power industry is in the hands of the private sector. So we need a strong regulator. Yan ang buhay natin, kasi ang regulator will assure the consumers na tama yung kanilang binabayad nila. No? And earlier on, you mentioned ED Fajardo na ERC is plagued with backlogs, with a lot of delays in terms of resets, a lot of delays in terms of approval of contracts, and all of this contribute to whether directly or indirectly contributes to electricity prices and also energy security. No? Ang importante ngayon, ma-resolve natin lahat to. No? Especially when it comes to a strong regulator. So I was just looking at the data. Ang buong power sector, Madam Chair, is about 600 96 billion pesos in terms of sales. Ganyong kalaki ang power sector in the Philippines. Ang budget ng ERC is only 877 million pesos. So imagine a less than 1 billion peso regulator regulating a 600 almost 700 billion behemoth. Kaya kaya nahirapan ni regulator to regulate and enforce kasi talagang kulang siya in terms of budget, in terms of capacity, and in terms of capability. It's trying its best pero hindi kaya, no? And for example, kanina na mention ni Edie Fajardo yung high turnover rates, no, or high attrition rates, and that's also creating a lot of instability in terms of strengthening the regulator. So ang request ko from ERCs to suggest to the committee what are the concepts that we need to include in the bill that will, number one, address attrition rates. Number two, be competitive to the industries that you are regulating. Kasi kung, for example, ang sweldo ng lawyers, engineers natin hindi competitive, hindi siya kapareho ng kay Meralco o kay NGCP, obviously doon pa lang hindi na tabla ng laban, no? And then number three, how do address the perennial delays and backlogs in terms of structure, no? You mentioned earlier that the direction of the ERC is to flatten the organization, no? On top of that, na notice ko year in year out in the budget, you rely on a lot of experts outside, no? A lot of professional services outside. Dapat embedded na yan in ERC because you do this on a regular basis, no? Isa sa mga nakikita ko, Madam Chair, during budget, yung kanilang unutilization of amounts. And when you trace the unutilization of amounts, parating failed bidding in getting experts and professional services. So doon pa lang, nadidelay na kaagad, no? In fact, in resets natin sa utilities and sa Transco, sa transmission line, I think in first time lang naging on time After the first time, puro delay na lahat. Diba? Puro delay na lahat. And that's not the design of the regulator. The design of the regulator is they will apply, you will value the application, and then pass it on to the consumers. Ngayon, baliktad, you pass it on to the consumers, then nag-a-apply sila at titignan natin kung tama yung kanilang charge. That's not the design of the regulator. That's not the design of the reset. So, in my opinion, if we have a strong regulator, sigurado ako bababa ang presyo ng kuryente sa ating bansa. Dahil magiging mas proactive siya, mas magagawa niya yung trabaho niya advance rather than naghahabol. Ngayon kasi naghahabol Nacha-charge na yung consumers, tapos naghahabol tayo, and then kung may nakita nating overcharging, pinapa-refund natin. Diba? Na-charge na yung consumer. Diba? Na-charge na tayo lahat. No? So that's the problem that we are facing for many years. Ever since I think IPIRA was created, ganyan So I'd like to thank the chairperson for tackling this bill because this is an opportunity to address the issues that ERC is facing in terms of performing its duties of an effective regulator. And that's why gamitin natin tong opportunity. Submit to us some concepts. For example, if you are looking at how to be competitive in terms of offering packages, then tingnan natin yun. How to address the issue of structure, then we address that. How to address the issue of retention of talent. No? ERC is very technical No? Hindi siya ordinary engineering, hindi siya ordinary law, hindi siya ordinary finance. It's really a specialized field. No? So how do we retain those talent so that we will not rely on external experts? And at the same time, nabanggit ko nga kanina, give ERC the power to impose higher penalties commensurate to the size of the industry player. No? So those are the concepts that we welcome in the committee, and during the technical working group, we can include that. Para once and for all, no, we have a regulator that can be relied on by the consumers. And we will make sure, and we have a regulator that will assure the country that it's looking after the interests of the consumers. So, isubmit na lang sa amin. No? And I understand that we will go into detail during the next hearing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, so with respect to ERC, since we already had a hearing and then obviously you delved on it again, may overlapping concerns, Senator Gatchalian also expressed his concerns. We're ready for another hearing or TWG, no? So either way, we'll regroup and be ready with your very specific amendments. We also have a working draft already, diba? The bill that I filed is already a consolidation of the House bill and the previous hearings that have been held here in the Senate by the former chairperson. So work with that, no? And feel free to coordinate with my staff so that we can move forward. Okay? Maybe we can have small working groups. I'll ask Senator Gatchalian if he has a staff available. We were not allowed to hold hearings, but if you have a staff who specializes in energy and we can just have a small meeting during the budget para hindi masayang yung time, we can do that at least with ERC, no? So we can move forward right after the budget. Okay? I just need to get back to Attorney Malyari. Yes.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, may we confirm whether the source document of the one-page slide of Transco, whether it is the transmission project status report as of 31 August 2025 that NGCP submits to the DOE and the ERC?
Yes, ma'am.
We will submit, Your Honor, a 55 pages. This is the PSR, Transmission Project Status Report. We will submit a 55 pages TPSR that contains detailed remarks for each project status, Your Honor.
Sige, so bigyan mo rin ako ng 5 pages that don't have detailed remarks.
Okay.
Like 2 to 3 lines per item lang.
Sige pa.
Kasi hindi naman ganun karami yon. So that,
Sige pa.
pero also the 55 page, but also
Yes,
a shorter one. Kasi
Sige pa.
it's also not acceptable that we keep going on this way, right?
Sige pa.
So we
Apa.
need to be, and then maybe you can summarize for all.
Yes pa.
So you have a quick summary for each, and then summarize for all and say like, whatever your summary is, majority of this is caused by what?
Yes,
May issue ba sa LGU? Tell us. May issue ba sa ibang agency? Tell us. Kung
Yes,
ano
pa.
yung issue, tell us. So that we know how to intervene.
Yes,
and
pa.
if you recall, the reason for this hearing is not just, and I go now to my last point. The reason for this hearing is to review the EPIRA law. So all of your concerns, we need to support by legislation. And because outside of legislation, there's other ways to solve your problems. But my main concern is the legislation. So I go back to each one of you. Some of you were a bit specific, like our last speaker, Attorney Gubalio, is very specific on the provisions of law that are important for them, and even mentioned that you're aligned with ERC on that. Others simply mentioned the challenges in life, like Attorney Teves. Sa buhay nyo, sa issue nyo, okay, tama naman yun. I need to understand this, no, to draft the legislation. Pero the idea really is to get the recommendations also from you. And because you're all here together, to also overlap and I mean, obviously you're each here to strengthen the agency or the institution that you represent. So I will be very happy to hear counter arguments to the strengthening or provisions that you want. Wala pa nga dito yung ibang private sectors. Marami pa ho tayong i-consult na inimbita naman natin sa ERC, di ba? Other sectors. This is just what I felt was eksakto lang for a 2-hour meeting, 2-hour hearing. So, your assignment is to submit policy recommendations. We don't have, because it normally doesn't come from us, a working draft. We don't have that yet, so there's nothing for you to specifically address. But obviously, your working draft is the EPIRA itself. So what are the provisions there? That's the next, no? Kasi Senator Gatchalian is ready to discuss that already, but I said for the time that we have today, hindi pa tayo doon. But that's the next step. That what are the specific amendments to EPIRA that you are prepared for. And if you could submit this in writing, it could be, if you can specifically amend EPIRA, I mean, have the specific provision, that's fine. If it's more of a policy, that's also fine. But I would like you to submit it, because in the time that we are going to be busy with the budget, then we can also be reviewing that, so that when we meet again, we can move forward faster. So nakita ko na yun, give you time to explain. I might have questions as to why you're trying to make certain amendments or not. And that's how we will proceed, okay? So last question for NGCP. It's about this Bagyong Tino and the transmission lines that were affected. Can you give us an update on what's going on?
Madam Chair, may I yield the floor to our
course.
technical?
Yes, please. Just a short update and tell us what happened and what's going on.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. We deployed our... my name is Reddy Alan Remorosa from the Planning and Engineering Group of NGCP. We are happy to report that our restoration efforts, we are continuing our restoration efforts, and out of the 55 lines affected by the typhoon, we have restored 50, and the remaining we target completion tomorrow, Madam Chair.
Of the 55 lines that were down, you have already restored 50.
That is correct, Madam Chair.
And of the 5 left, is this concentrated in one area? Can you specify para may update din yung mga tao?
Okay, Madam Chair, ito pong remaining 5, these are mostly, 4 of which are 69 kV lines.
Okay.
Pero yung main backbone of the Visayas grid has been restored already. So these remaining 69 kV lines affecting Leyeco 3, Dorelco, Leyeco 4, Soleco, and Sebeco 3.
So saan yung mga areas na
It is
yun?
in Leyte, Madam Chair, and in Cebu.
So do you know how many people are affected by this? Kasi pag sinabi mong 50 are already restored, 5 ang remaining. Kala ko naman parang isang barangay lang. Eh, binanggit mo probinsya. So parang malaki-laki pa yata yun.
Your Honors, baka may figures sa household CNEA because nabanggit naman po namin yung electric cooperatives that are affected.
Sige. But like me, when you say those acronyms, I'm not immediately aware kung saan yon. That's why I had to ask kung saan, no? Yung mga nagbabayad ng bill na yon, tandaan nila kung sino yung ko na yon. Eh ako, hindi ko kilala yung ko na yon dahil taga Manila po ako, so Meralco yung kilala ko. Okay. Yes, just briefly lang kung ano yung areas. Kasi lahat tayo may kaibigan, may kamag-anak, may nababasa tayo. So at least malaman natin na okay na yung mga ibang lugar at ano tong mga... Do you have specific areas or municipalities of these provinces?
Yes. So, if I may,
Yeah,
Madam
hindi na
Chair.
siguro sa barangay level. Kung municipal level lang, okay na.
Apo. So, with regards to the electric cooperatives, this is a report as of 9 a.m. today. Yung affected provinces is 20. In terms of affected or for restoration ng mga household connections, located in 8 provinces. So, including po yung Region 4, Region 5, Region 6, Region 7, Region 8, Region 10, Caraga, and Negros Island regions. Meron po tayong 959,486 po na consumer connections na for restoration.
For restoration pa
Opo.
lang.
Affected po sila
So,
ng...
as of 9 a.m., you have about 1 million households that are still affected. Is that correct?
With regards to the electric cooperatives po, Madam Chair. So, it does not include pa po yung other private distribution utilities.
So marami-rami pala, no? To be honest, it's a bit deceiving when I'm not saying you're trying to deceive me, but when you say 50 are restored and 5 na lang, Parang akala ko,
Ah.
oo, ang laki pala nun.
Oh, yes po.
So to be clear, as far as the electrical cooperatives are concerned, mga 1 million households pa ang
Yes,
affected.
Madam Chair.
Medyo mabigat. And then meron pa nung mga private DUs, no?
Yes,
Mga
Mr.
ilan
Chair.
kaya yun? Who can answer that?
Probably DOE po,
DOE.
Madam
Mga
Chair.
ilan kaya yun? I'll get, somebody else was raising, but let me just hear
Yeah.
this.
Madam Chair, as of the latest status for the Visayas Electric Company in Cebu, all substations energized except in Liloan. We need clearing and around approximate 66% customers have been restored. That's in Cebu. And for the Mactan Meco feeder, 99% restored, both in mainland Mactan and Olango Island. And for Negros Power, around 36.5% energized, 29 out of 47 feeders are energized, affecting 250,000 consumers. And
Ilan yun yung sa Negros? Ilang percent?
for Negros,
The last one, you said.
Chair, let me check. For Negros and Chair.
It's the last one you just read.
Nag-update. For Negros, around 36.5 energized. 29 out of 47 feeders are energized. For Iloilo, under More Electric Power Corporation, all feeders are energized. And for Bohol Light, back to normal. And Maripipi, 100% island. Yung Maripipi Island, 100%. Yun lang po yung so far as of current status, Madam Chair.
Okay.
But we will continuously monitor this because we have a task force on the Tino operations.
So, Liloan yung hardest hit ba?
On that side, Mandaue, Liloan side.
Mandaue and Liloan.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the pictures I saw were quite bad. Okay, thank you. Everyone, yes, who wanted to, Mr. Remorosa again?
Madam Chair, I just want to add, kaya po mababa yung numbers namin because we are referring to the transmission lines only.
Yeah, transmission
So
lines.
yung marami pong distribution lines affected at
But
yun
I
din
mean,
po.
still, I'm looking at the, I'm looking at the ratio. So, 50 transmission lines are good, 55 na lang ang down. So that's still 10% na lang ang down. Kaya akala ko maliit na lang yung sakop nun. Even though I know you clarified you're referring to transmission line. So the bulk is restored. Pero yung remaining 5 is still big, no? Still big, obviously.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
And our target completion for that would be until tomorrow. But kahit matapos kami, there would be continuing works for the distribution side.
Okay. All right. So everyone, thank you. We will you will be informed of our next hearing, but we may have a small group meeting, no, with ERC na lang to clarify. And I'll invite the 2 senators who are very actively involved in the committee to join just to move forward. So thank you everyone. Please stay safe for the next few days. May bagyo pa ring parating. Yeah. So take care everyone. The hearing is hereby suspended. Thank you.